Welcome to Chasing Curiosity TV. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Manila's headlines are all too familiar. Rolling blackouts, fuel price hikes, power plant shutdowns. These stories dominate the front pages, but for most Filipinos, they're not just headlines, they're a harsh reality that shapes daily life. For millions across the archipelago, the struggle with unreliable electricity is a constant companion. It's not just an inconvenience, it's a daily challenge that affects how families live, work, and dream. Picture a family in a provincial town. As the sun dips below the horizon, the house remains shrouded in darkness. There's no hum of appliances, no glow from a television, just the quiet, uneasy wait for power to return. Children huddle around flickering candles trying to finish their homework. Their futures, like the candlelight, waver with every brownout. For these young minds, every blackout is a missed opportunity, a lesson unlearned, a dream deferred. In Metro Manila, the country's bustling heart, entire districts are swallowed by darkness. Traffic lights blink out, plunging intersections into chaos. Businesses close early, and the city's vibrant nightlife is replaced by uncertainty and frustration. Hospitals scramble to keep life-saving equipment running on backup generators, while businesses, large and small, grind to a halt, losing precious hours and income. The cost of these outages is measured not just in pesos, but in lost opportunities and growing anxiety. This is the Philippines in 2025, a nation caught in the grip of an energy crisis that shows no signs of easing. The darkness that falls each night is a stark reminder of a problem that touches every corner of society. The paradox is painful and persistent. The Philippines is rich in energy resources, yet remains poor in reliable power. The country's natural wealth is undeniable, but its benefits remain out of reach for most citizens. Beneath Philippine waters lie vast reserves of oil and natural gas, resources that could, in theory, power the nation for decades. These untapped riches offer hope, but also highlight the gap between potential and reality. Yet, despite this abundance, Filipinos pay some of the highest electricity rates in Southeast Asia. Outages are frequent, and families are forced to stretch their budgets just to keep the lights on. The cost of living continues to soar, driven higher by volatile global energy prices. Every trip to the market, every monthly bill, is a reminder of how energy insecurity ripples through daily life. The nation's wealth is tantalizingly close, visible in the oil fields and gas reserves. But for most, it remains just out of reach, a promise unfulfilled. This is a story of potential versus reality, a country with the keys to energy independence, yet unable to unlock the door. The barriers are not just physical but political, economic, and social. The darkness over Filipino homes is more than a lack of electricity. It's a metaphor for a future held hostage by indecision and inaction. Each blackout dims not just the lights but the hopes of millions. Political indecision, bureaucratic red tape, and simmering geopolitical tensions keep the nation in the dark. Promises of reform are made, but real change remains elusive. The question echoes from every powerless home and every shuttered business. Why? Why does a nation so rich in resources struggle to provide the basics for its people? Why are we in the dark when so much light is within our grasp? The frustration is palpable, the sense of injustice growing with every outage. The answer lies in a complex web of challenges, some rooted at home, others woven by international forces. Infrastructure gaps, regulatory hurdles, and foreign interests all play a part in this tangled crisis. But the stakes are clear. The nation's future depends on breaking free from this cycle. For the next generation, for the country's growth, and for the promise of a brighter tomorrow, something must change. The time for change is now. Across the country, voices are rising, demanding reform, accountability, and a new path forward. Will the Philippines finally claim its energy destiny? The answer will shape not just the nation's power grid, but the lives and dreams of every Filipino. The numbers are stark. They paint a picture of a nation caught in a cycle that's hard to break, a cycle that affects every Filipino, whether they realize it or not. Every single day, the Philippines burns through nearly 500,000 barrels of crude oil. That's enough to fill thousands of Olympic-sized swimming pools, and the demand keeps rising as the population grows and the economy tries to keep pace. This oil is the lifeblood of the country. It powers the cars that fill Manila's streets, keeps factories running, and lights up homes for over 115 million people. From the morning coffee brewed on a gas stove to the jeepneys that bring workers to their jobs, oil is everywhere in daily life. Yet, when it comes to producing oil, the Philippines barely scratches the surface. Local production is less than 1% of what's needed, almost a drop in the bucket compared to what's consumed. The result? The country is almost entirely dependent on imported oil and gas, with the vast majority coming from the Middle East. Tankers travel thousands of kilometers just to keep the lights on and the engines running. This heavy reliance makes the Philippines extremely vulnerable to global market shocks. When oil prices spike due to conflicts or supply issues abroad, Filipinos feel the impact immediately, at the pump, in their electricity bills, and in the cost of everyday goods. Gasoline, electricity, and even basic necessities like food and transportation all become more expensive. For many families, every price hike means making tough choices about what to cut back on. Each year, billions of dollars flow out of the country to pay for foreign energy. That's money that could have stayed in the Philippines, circulating in the local economy and creating jobs. Instead, it's money lost. Money that could have built new schools for children, hospitals for the sick, and roads to connect communities. The situation is not just difficult, it's unsustainable in the long run. Businesses struggle to plan for the future when energy costs swing wildly. Unpredictable expenses can mean the difference between hiring new workers or shutting down entirely. For ordinary families, it's a constant battle. When electricity and transport costs eat up a big chunk of their income, escaping poverty becomes even harder. Dreams are put on hold and opportunities slip away. The gap between what the Philippines consumes and what it produces isn't just a statistic, it's a daily reality, and a growing threat to every Filipino's well-being and future. It's like a household that buys all its food from an expensive store, while a fertile backyard garden sits unused and forgotten. The resources are there, but they remain untapped. The answer isn't simply to buy more from abroad, it's to finally make use of what's already here, developing local resources, investing in technology, and building the capacity to produce more at home. The nation's future depends on closing this gap. It's about energy security, economic stability, and giving every Filipino a fair shot at a better life. The question is, what's stopping us? Is it policy, investment, or something deeper in the system? And most importantly, what will it take to change? The answer could shape the destiny of the Philippines for generations to come. The energy crisis isn't just about numbers, it's about people. Rising oil prices mean higher fares for jeepneys and buses, squeezing both drivers and passengers. Food costs climb as transport becomes more expensive. Brownouts devastate small businesses, spoiled goods, lost sales, shuttered shops, students lose study time, hospitals risk lives when the power goes out. The crisis fuels a larger exodus. Millions of Filipinos leave to work abroad, driven by a lack of stable jobs at home. Remittances help, but families are torn apart. The true cost is measured in lost opportunities, broken families, and daily struggles. It's the mother choosing between food and electricity, the business owner forced to lay off staff, the father seeing his children only through a screen. Energy scarcity isn't just about kilowatts, it's about lost potential. Filipinos deserve a future where the lights and opportunities stay on. The tragedy is that the Philippines isn't poor in resources, it's failing to tap them. Despite the vibrant city lights and the bustling streets, millions of Filipinos still struggle with poverty, and the gap between the rich and the poor remains painfully visible. Beneath the shimmering blue waters of the West Philippine Sea lie untapped oil and gas reserves worth trillions of dollars, an immense fortune waiting to be unlocked. The Reed Bank alone could hold over 5 billion barrels of oil and 50 trillion cubic feet of gas, making it one of the most promising energy fields in Southeast Asia. That's enough energy to power the country for decades, potentially turning the Philippines into an energy exporter and fueling economic growth for generations. Neighbors like Malaysia and Brunei have built their national wealth and stability from similar resources, investing in infrastructure and reaping the rewards. Vietnam too is aggressively exploring its own reserves, pushing forward with new technology and international partnerships to secure its energy future. Meanwhile, the Philippines lags behind, with exploration vessels sitting idle and outdated infrastructure gathering rust, despite having some of the richest claims in the region. The technology to extract these resources exists. The benefits are clear: lower electricity bills for families, more reliable power for businesses, and billions in government revenue that could fund schools, hospitals, and roads. Developing these resources could transform the nation, fueling new industries, creating jobs, and lifting millions out of poverty, if only the resources were developed. The paradox is stark: a nation suffering from blackouts and high energy costs, floating on a literal sea of energy and opportunity. The promise is real, but so are the obstacles. Hopes for progress often fade into frustration as projects stall and opportunities slip away. What's stopping the Philippines from claiming this future? Why does so much potential remain just out of reach? The answer isn't under the sea, it's above it. The real barriers are not geological but political, legal, and bureaucratic. The next chapter is about the barriers on land, the challenges that must be overcome for the Philippines to finally fulfill its trillion-dollar promise. The obstacles to unlocking this wealth are man-made. Political instability and shifting policies have scared off investors for decades. Endless permits and red tape stall projects for years. Bureaucracy and overlapping agencies create a maze no company wants to enter. Legal uncertainty over contracts and resource sharing adds more risk. Investors need stability, not shifting rules. These internal challenges have left the energy sector paralyzed. While neighbors move forward, the Philippines debates and delays. The resources aren't unreachable, they're just trapped behind walls built at home. The chains holding back the nation's energy future are forged in its own halls of power. The biggest obstacle isn't just at home, it's China. China claims almost the entire South China Sea, overlapping the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. In 2016, the Philippines won a legal victory at The Hague, but China ignores it. Chinese ships block Filipino vessels, harass survey teams, and keep fishermen away. Any move to explore for oil or gas is met with intimidation. The Philippines has the legal right but not the power to enforce it. China's shadow keeps the nation's energy future just out of reach. Two energy fields tell the story, Malampaya and Reed Bank. Malampaya has powered up to 20% of the country's electricity for 2 decades, but its reserves are running out. Without a replacement, the country faces higher prices and more pollution. Reed Bank could be the answer, but it's paralyzed by geopolitics and bureaucracy. Government efforts to find new sources are slow and controversial. Exploration contracts stall, progress is minimal, the contrast is stark. Malampaya shows what's possible, Reed Bank what's lost. As Malampaya fades, the promise of Reed Bank remains unfulfilled. The nation risks darkness unless it acts fast. Energy poverty hits every Filipino home and business. High electricity bills force families to cut back on essentials. Small businesses struggle with outages and soaring costs, stifling growth and jobs. Students fall behind when power cuts disrupt online learning. The digital divide grows, locking out the next generation. Daily life is harder, sweltering heat, spoiled food, traffic chaos, strained hospitals. These aren't minor inconveniences, they're barriers to progress. The crisis steals opportunities from the young and hope from the old. It's a grinding weight on the nation's shoulders. The cost isn't just economic, it's human. The Philippines can't afford to let this crisis continue. Malaysia shows what's possible. Like the Philippines, it has offshore oil and gas, but it built Petronas, a world-class national energy company. Petronas invested in exploration, technology, and partnerships, fueling Malaysia's growth. The result: reliable power, lower costs, and national prosperity. Malaysia faced its own challenges but acted decisively. The lesson is clear: visionary leadership and political will matter. The Philippines has been stuck in infighting and paralysis. The time for excuses is over. The country needs bold action, streamline bureaucracy, create stable laws, defend its rights, and empower a national energy champion. Malampaya is running dry, and the window is closing. The nation stands at a crossroads. Will it follow Malaysia's path, or remain lost in the dark? The choice is urgent, and the future depends on it.